here we go. Episode 104 of the Hardline Sports Talk. And yes, it looks a lot different. We are in person for the first time in God knows how long here in the NSC Windows Studios here in Massapequa.
It's pretty nice, right?
I love it. JM, how are you?
I'm good, man. This is exciting. This is taking me back to 2 years ago when we were sitting right here, one mic across from each other, and
remember we tried, we ended up buying two microphones, like the ones we usually use over Zoom, and we tried figuring out how to use two microphones sitting at the same desk, all audio, and we couldn't figure it out for our lives. Mm-hmm. And now we're here today with a camera, our own microphones, in the same room. A lot of fun. We're very excited.
It's fantastic, man. I think this whole face-to-face interaction, I mean, we do this all the time. We hang out, we talk sports.
It's going to be better.
It's a little different when we're on Zoom talking to each other. I feel like I'm on TV right now.
I know.
I kind of like this.
I feel very like...
I feel like I should have put makeup on or something.
I know. I wish I changed, put on a nicer shirt under my St. Thomas shirt.
Right.
We got our little decorations here, too. I got Howie Rose in front of me.
I got my little corner, my Jets hat. I got my Mickey Mantle over there. What was like? That's a Yankee clock. I got my little race cars up here.
Is that the old Yankee Stadium or the new Yankee Stadium?
That's the old Yankee Stadium. Yeah, that's the old one.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. But anyway, we got a lot to do. So obviously we're excited. We're in person. And we both believe this is going to change the quality of these episodes. It's going to be a lot better.
What's this thing you got going on with your leg? Is this a little nervous twitch you're doing?
Yeah, a little bit. It's hanging
You're like
off.
swinging around.
I'll stop.
Why don't you rest it right there?
I'll start. I got to wrap it around now. I got like ADHD. I can't stop moving. That's what ADHD is, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Or
anyway.
OCD, one of the others. They're both bad.
Yeah, I mean, we're smart. We're college students. Okay, anyway. We are going to start with baseball, though, because basically the most heartbreaking thing happened in Major League Baseball, and in terms of baseball, obviously, nobody died or anything, right? But an injury that nobody wanted to see. Shohei Ohtani, torn UCL, and it's crazy because you really start to think, okay, yeah, the Angels are basically done. They made every wrong move they could have possibly made at the trade deadline, but now the future of Shohei Ohtani and his contract and his free agency, I think, just completely changes. And the contract now that he's going to get is going to be 10 times more complicated.
Well, what were we talking about when we talked about Ohtani? I mean, how many times this year have we talked about Ohtani? Just recently, we were saying you value Shohei Ohtani as a Major League Baseball team. If I'm his agent, I'm saying Garrett Cole and Bryce Harper. Those are the two contracts we've seen over the past couple of years where huge deals, one pitcher, one hitter. You're getting those players in one player in Shohei Ohtani. You're getting Garrett Cole and you're getting Bryce Harper. So we were talking crazy figures, $600, $700 million over a 10 to 12 year span. The UCL, it's like an ACL for a running back. That's how important it is for a pitcher. When you hear Tommy John, when you hear UCL, you freeze. And I remember I compare it to the Masahiro Tanaka situation with the Yankees. He had that tear in his UCL, which that's how they put it, by the way. They didn't say torn UCL. They said he has a tear in his UCL, right? Which to me, it sounds like the same thing, but it isn't. So I don't know what they want us to think. But this could be a $200 million injury for Shohei Ohtani.
It's going to be what I think. And I think it's going to end up being that he is going to have to reach a certain benchmark, right? Incentives. If you hit this amount of starts, this amount of guaranteed money kicks in. And now you have to think, this is not what a player wants. This is not what his agents are going to want. So his agents are going to want all guaranteed money, not have to deal with incentives or anything. This is where I think an advantage for maybe teams on the East Coast that might not have had a shot at Ohtani.
Right.
Maybe Andrew Friedman, the Dodgers, are saying, oh, we're a little scared now. Yeah. We're going to need some, less guarantees on this deal. You're going to have to make a certain amount of starts when you're healthy. Maybe this opens the door for the Mets or the Yankees where Cohen, or if Hal Steinbrenner really wants him, they say all guaranteed. Right. No need for incentives. Let's go. We're going to give you $550 million. Let's do this thing.
Right. Well, I mean, this has always been a concern when we talk about Shohei Ohtani. We talk about how he's so excellent at both things he do, and he throws 100 miles an hour, and he can hit a ball 450 feet. You always said injuries are a possibility, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's already had some injuries in his career. Nothing this bad, but
he had Tommy John already.
But he's had 20.
We were in high school,
right? It was early in his career, but this is bad. I mean, 2 Tommy Johns. A lot of guys have gone through this before. I believe Nathan Eovaldi might have had 2 Tommy John surgeries. DeGrom, I think, his second or his third or something like. Yeah. So we're still yet to see how DeGrom comes back from this, but to get the Tommy John and to be a hitter and a pitcher where who knows what else could happen to him with being on his legs, and we know how important legs are for pitchers, and he's stealing all these bases, he's running around the field. I really don't want to see it happen to the guy, but this is a concern. And if I'm a team, like you're saying, maybe the Mets or the Yankees, if they're really aggressive, or any other East Coast team, who knows who else is going to be in the mix, because I think this is a guy where no matter what your team need is, this is you put money on the table for. Maybe they could say, all right, the Dodgers are a little skeptical about his injuries. They're not willing to go this much money. Like you said, maybe that opens the door for the Mets or the Yankees or the Red Sox or whoever else to say, listen, we get the risk, but we really want this guy. We want to convince him with all this money, no matter if it's East Coast or West Coast, we're giving you $100 million more than the Dodgers because we don't care about your injuries. That could be a possibility for teams on the East Coast.
And then, again, it's a huge risk, obviously, when you're dealing with somebody that's going to break the record for the biggest contract basically ever in sports. It's really scary. And, again, it sucks. He was having the most magical season any player has ever had in the entire sport. And now we have to deal with injury. And I was reading a couple of things on Twitter before, and somebody said that injuries in sports are becoming like an epidemic, or it was Tommy John is becoming an epidemic. And these players are playing at such a high level, their bodies physically, like literally cannot handle it anymore. That's how high of a level all these athletes and all these sports are playing at. And it kind of makes sense because the thing we worry about in sports the most, I think, especially when we're rooting for our teams, is their health.
Right.
So I think it's honestly true because you sit there every day and you're like, oh, my God, please don't get hurt. Like, please, this guy don't get hurt. That's the biggest thing I worry about when watching my teams. But
well, that's what I think is also the biggest BS take, and how you could really tell in somebody, especially the older crowd, where, okay, this is a casual baseball fan that I'm talking to right now, or this is just a person who doesn't know a lot about sports, is they'll come up to you and say, oh, baseball players and athletes these days, they're soft. Back in the day, Joe Schmo, Johnny Home Run Baker, and all these ridiculous names back then.
Fake guys.
They played through all these injuries and this and that. Well, guess what? Johnny Baker was facing 82-mile-an-hour fastballs and didn't really, have to – the pitcher didn't have to push his body too much, and the hitter didn't have to push his body too much. So, yeah, sure, I'm sure a sprained ankle they play to every once in a while, but – just look at baseball, especially with these young athletes. You have kids. When we were even playing baseball in Little League, not even at these high level that these guys are going to perfect game tournaments and this and that. In Little League, guys are throwing curveballs at 12 years old, 10 years old. They're starting to throw curveballs. And then you have, back in the day, there was no, the color barrier existed. There was just a bunch of white guys playing baseball. Now you have these extremely talented players coming from all different demographics, all different parts of the world that are pushing these guys. Think about it. Competition is just going up and up and up and up. And it's like, okay, well, this guy could throw 95 miles an hour in 2005, which is great. But now everybody's throwing 95 miles an hour. Hitters adjusted to it. I got to throw 100. Now 100 is becoming the norm. So these guys keep pushing their bodies to the limit, to the limit, to the limit, and the competition is getting better and better and better. Like I said, you're getting athletes from all around the world. The pool is just getting more saturated and more saturated that these guys are going to want to level up each other, and they're pushing their bodies to the limit, and this is what's happening.
I think this opens the door, selfishly, for Steve Cohen. Because you're going to have a guy now, let's say he does have Tommy John surgery and he can only hit. How long would he be out? I think he would be able to hit by next season, correct?
Harper got it, at the end of the year last year?
No, Harper got it late in the offseason.
Harper got it late.
Mishandled by the Phillies.
And he came back. He's playing first base now. He came back about halfway through the season.
So he would most likely be ready in April or May for next season, but he wouldn't be able to pitch. So you're not going to be paying for him to pitch for at least one season, possibly longer, if he was to have the surgery in the offseason. That might be big enough for some teams to drop out. And if the Mets are saying, we'll pay you to pitch and hit, even though you're not pitching, in that 1 or 2 seasons where Steve Cohen does not care, he just wants Ohtani, I think this opens up the door for the Mets. We will see, though.
But who's even to say that when he comes back from this injury that he'll be the same hitter?
No, he won't.
I mean, I'm looking up Harper's numbers right now. He's got 12 home runs, and that's been a problem for Harper. What do you go, like 200 at-bats without a home run? Something ridiculous like that. He has 12 home runs and 348 at-bats. A guy, Bryce Harper, who's known as being a power hitter in his
think
career.
This is just from this season, though. Like, he came back early. He's playing a new position.
Yes.
I wouldn't look too much into Harper. I mean, listen, yeah, all right, he had a major surgery in the offseason. This might be affecting him for the 2023 season, but for his future, I'm not worried about Bryce Harper's bat and his power numbers. If you want to say that season when Ohtani comes back to hit in 2024, it might be a down season offensively. Okay, I could bite on that.
Listen, I hate to put these guys in the same conversation, but Aaron Hicks had Tommy John surgery, and ever since he came back from that injury,
we're moving on.
He's not so good anymore.
We're moving on. That's enough of that, please. Aaron Hicks. Very quickly, in the AL West, the teams ahead of the Angels, who, by the way, just again, one of the worst run organizations in the entire sport, maybe in sports right now, but definitely in baseball. Just they're out of it, completely out of it. But the teams top three in this division, the Rangers, who acquired Max Scherzer, the Astros, who acquired Justin Verlander, and the Mariners, who didn't do much at the deadline. They've gotten hot here in August. 2 8-game winning streaks in August. They are just a game and a half out of first place. Mariners, very interesting to me. I am intrigued by the Mariners. I liked them before the season started, and I like them again. I think they have one of the best pitchers in baseball in Luis Castillo. He's unreal. We just traded for him in fantasy baseball. We love that. But I'm a fan of these Mariners.
How about George
here.
Kirby? How about George Kirby, too, huh? He's having a pretty damn good year.
Read stats out. What's George Kirby's stats right now?
10-8, 3 who gives a crap about record, but 3.28 ERA, 156 innings,
Love it.
1.030 whip. So he's having a real nice season. Nice ERA plus, 123, too.
Rodriguez just went on a tear that we've never seen before.
Yeah, 17 for 22 or something like that.
Was that 4-game series?
Ridiculous.
He had more hits than the Yankees over the weekend.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll get to them.
I think that the Mariners, like, they're doing it again. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay mid throughout the season, and August rolls around, September rolls around. They're here to play baseball, and me and you loved them in the offseason.
Before the year.
I mean, we did that preseason show with Joe, and I remember we were arguing with him saying that we loved the Mariners. No, he didn't, and he was right up until about 2-3 weeks ago.
And they did this in 2021, too. They missed the playoffs by like a game or less than a game.
Right.
But last year, they went on the run. They went to the playoffs, and they played, again, another shot at the Yankees. They played the Astros the toughest we've seen. We saw a team play the Astros last year.
That is definitely correct.
Because they got swept in that divisional round, but played them very good. They lost on a walk-off. Really close games against Houston. So, yeah, I like this Mariners team. And in an American League that is completely wide open, in my opinion, they really have a shot this season.
I mean, of course it is wide open. The team that has owned the American League, the Houston Astros, they're not even atop their division right now, and they're looking at the Seattle Mariners in their rearview window going, oh, crap, we got problems to worry about. We were worried about the Rangers and jumping them this whole time. No, the Mariners are giving us problems. So the thing that sticks out to me about the Mariners is their offense is, I don't think we were expecting a top 5 lineup here in baseball, but it is underperforming to what I expected from them. I mean, they don't even have a single guy above an 800 OPS. They got a couple guys who are damn close. You got Rodriguez, 798. Mike Ford, that's actually insane. That's actually insane. I hated Mike Ford when he was a Yankee. But 791
How many
OPS.
home runs?
He's got 12 bombs in 158 at-bats. That's actually pretty freaking good.
Yankees could use him right now.
Thanks. A lot of just, you having fun with this Yankee stuff?
You know what?
Having a good time?
We are going to talk about the Yankees.
Yeah.
We'll save it.
Okay.
What do you want to do now?
But, yeah, I mean, Mariners, to me, it's tough to see a team that's not named the Houston Astros to go to the World Series because we're just so used to it. But I'm still very high on the Orioles. I mean, we said about a month ago, World Series prediction. I think I said Orioles, Braves, and I'm sticking by it. The Rays are done. Franco's gone. McClanahan out for the year. They've had a lot of injuries, more injuries in the rotation. So I think they're going to limp their way into the playoffs.
I actually predicted a couple of weeks ago on a different show that they would fall out of the playoffs. It doesn't look like
not a bad take, but
it doesn't look like. I mean, it could happen. They're only 6 up on, the rest of, I know it would be difficult. It would be difficult for them to miss the playoffs at this point. They're on a 4-game winning streak now. They're 6 up on Seattle. So I think that'll be pretty tough. There's a lot of baseball to be played. No. I still think Toronto's sneaking in, though. That's the thing. And I think you get 3 teams from the American League. We'll see. I don't know. Right. I like Toronto. I like Toronto.
I think the whole AL East, 4 playoff team dream is in the gutter. That's not happening.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, Boston.
The Red Sox aren't getting it. They're done.
Which, by the way, Boston is the weirdest team in the league. I mean, we're not talking about Boston today because I don't feel like talking about a mid team.
Right.
But, they are so average, it hurts.
They are.
And I actually find it impressive that they're 8 games over 500 right now. I think it's impressive.
Yeah, it is.
But anyway, we'll see who wins the AL West. I think it'll be Houston. Final prediction, I think it's Houston. I don't think Texas holds on.
I really want to say it's not going to be Houston, but it's probably going to be Houston.
Let's talk Yankees quick because we just teased them for 10 minutes. Let's talk Yankees very quickly, and then I want to talk about these stupid-ass trade rumors with Pete Alonso. Let's talk Yankees quick. In our lifetimes, we've never seen a worse Yankee team.
No.
This is the worst the Yankees have ever been.
Yeah, by a significant margin.
Because even in 2016 when they sold off, they called up the kids, and they were exciting, and they actually got back into the race a little bit. Not seriously, but, oh, wow, they're a few games out.
For sure.
This is the worst we've ever seen them. They are a dumpster fire at the moment. They're going to fire a manager who doesn't deserve to be fired, and they're going to keep a general manager who deserves to be fired.
They are, first of all, they haven't had a losing season since 1992, which is just crazy to think about. And to think that this is the year that it's going to be broken. I always imagined the year that it would be broken, it would be some team going in the year, you're like, all right, this is just a throwaway year, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
This is a team we were talking about as competing for a World Series this year. I mean, we had some lower expectations maybe because of the offseason that they had, but you can't be telling me you saw this coming.
No, some people thought they were a World Series contender. I always saw them as a wild card team, but if you told me they would have been this bad, you told me they weren't going to have a winning record.
I didn't see the Orioles jumping them in the division. I didn't see the Rays jumping them in the division. I wasn't impressed by either of these teams. I thought the Orioles and the Rays were playoff caliber teams, but the Orioles coming off their awful stretch of 5 years and then having a nice run at the end of the year there, then not spending any money this offseason and still having a very young roster, I thought it was going to take a little bit for them to really compete as a freaking World Series contender like they are right now.
And by the way, did you see what their owner or whatever, president or CEO, whatever you want to call him, Angelo, said the other day?
He's going to have to raise the prices.
First of all, he's a clown for what he did with the broadcaster. I want to say the name
ridiculous.
Kevin Brown was his name.
Yep.
What an absolute joke that was.
Yep.
But now to say he's got to raise the prices, come on, dude. You have so much money. And if you have to do that, please just sell the team. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants you in baseball if that's what you have to do.
Yep.
Not even to we're not talking about spending Met, Yankee, Padre money. We're talking about spending what, $150, $200 million?
Right.
Like what the Houston Astros spend.
And let's not act like Baltimore is like Green Bay, Wisconsin. I mean, it's a good sports town, Baltimore.
100%.
It's on the East Coast in Maryland, right by Washington D.C. It's not in some
beautiful
stadium. It's not in the middle of nowhere. It's not in freaking Kansas.
It's an absolute joke how he runs it, how some of these guys run this team. But back to the Yankees, we've harped on it. The roster construction from Brian Cashman has just been god awful.
Awful.
And I didn't watch this video, but Brian Kenny of MLB Network went on this run about how Giancarlo Stanton ruined the core of the New York Yankees. And, everybody obviously was excited about the Giancarlo Stanton trade. You're lying to yourself, especially if you're a Yankee fan. If you said, I didn't want Stanton. He just hit 59 home runs a year prior. Of course you wanted Giancarlo Stanton on your team, especially with the young core that the Yankees had coming up and, that established themselves that season in 2017. But I don't think there's a worse contract other than the Rendones of the world and Strasburg, which I think are outliers. But I think he's the worst contract in baseball.
I'd argue that those are better because at least the Angels are not relying on Anthony Rendon now. They've settled with the fact that he sucks. The Yankees are in a championship window right now. Aaron Judge isn't getting younger. Garrett Cole's not getting younger. Those are your two superstars, best at their position in the entire sport. They're not getting any younger. So for Giancarlo Stanton to be a 195 hitter And
the guy's supposed to be batting behind the MVP of the
exactly
American
to
League.
give Judge his protection. Rizzo, that whole injury situation was ridiculous. But there is no protection for Aaron Judge in this lineup right now. When Judge isn't on the field, this team is just dreadful to watch. Like, oh my God, I'd rather watch paint dry.
Susan Waldman actually said
Waldman.
They're boring to watch on a hot mic.
70 years old, Susan Waldman is bored of the Yankees. She doesn't have much going on in her life anymore. She's not young anymore, I'm sure.
She has a pretty good job.
Sure, yeah, that's true. Ask Wade Boggs about Susan Waldman. I'm sure he'll give you a good story. That's for another day. But
John!
It's just Roger Clemens is in George's box.
Roger Clemens is in George Steinbrenner's box.
But the thing that just irks me is all the Yankee fans know what I'm talking about. Brian Cashman, just like he does at the trade deadline, he's going to do the same thing this offseason. They're going to go out and get some solid big league ball players, not make any big moves, and he's going to say, Aaron Judge, he wasn't that healthy last year, so getting a full year of Judge, that's an upgrade for us. And then some guys had some down years. We don't anticipate them to have the same year. They're going to bounce back. And then, boom, everything's going to be great, and the Yankees are going to be fantastic in 2024. That's what Brian Cashman is going to tell you.
In some cases, that's okay, right? And I'll use this as a Met example. The Mets will do whatever they have to do. And then Billy Epler will say exactly what Cashman said. Well, McNeil was pretty bad to start the year, and he finished the year strong. He's not going to be that bad. And in those cases, yes, they make sense. But he's going to say that about DJ LeMahieu, who is how old? And has been broken down.
Yeah.
He's going to say that about Giancarlo Stanton, who is old and broken down. He might even say that about Rizzo, but he might be right about Rizzo. But still, you're not going to want to hear it about Rizzo. The one thing I'll give Cashman credit for is that he faces the music all the time. He will have, if there's a bad stretch, he'll have a press conference. After the trade deadline, obviously, he has the press conference. So he does talk to the media a lot more than other general managers do.
I think he kind of has to, though. I understand what you're saying, but as the general manager of the New York Yankees, I think he has to. I don't think he could. You always love to talk about the New York media and everything like that, and we're talking about the most iconic sports franchise. I think it would be very difficult for him to just ignore everything.
Why am I blanking on the president of the Knicks? What's his name? The agent. Leon
Rose.
Leon Rose it's not talked about enough how he does not speak to the media at all. And if he does speak to the media, it's a pre-recorded interview with somebody from MSG.
Right.
He is a coward when it comes to speaking to the media. Mm-hmm. And listen, the Knicks have had success, especially last season. They had success with what Leon Rose did, and he was praised for the moves that he made. But it's a joke that he doesn't speak to the media more frequently. Right. And when he does, it's not even live. Right. It's the tape. So it's an absolute joke. So I think with Brian Cashman, even Epler to a degree, he talks to the media frequently. You got to give these guys credit. They face the music. I understand what you're saying, but look at the Knicks, who are a iconic franchise, especially in the NBA. He doesn't face the music.
Okay. I screenshotted this tweet yesterday, and I immediately texted you and was like, when we talk about the Yankees, I need to bring this up.
I don't think you did that, by the way.
So I did.
No, you didn't.
I texted you last night, and I said, we're talking about the Yankees in all caps. I didn't send you the picture of the tweet, but I literally texted you in all caps and said, we need to talk about the Yankees. Remember you said anything I need to add?
That was today.
Anyways, that was last night. It was last night. Okay? You're going to say you're sorry when
you did not text
on your phone.
Me. We were talking about the National Republican debate.
Okay. This is how stubborn he is, by the way. Anyways.
You didn't text me.
Okay. Sure. Go to like 8 o'clock.
On 8 o'clock. No, you didn't text me.
Oh my God. Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Anyways. Brian Cashman said at his press conference, I don't think there's anybody on this planet that felt that the New York Yankees, as constructed leaving spring training, weren't a playoff contending team.
I agree. We just said that before.
Bleep happens, and because of that, there's a mess on our hands. That is true, and I'm not. Before I go on, I am not defending Brian Cashman. I pray that he gets fired tomorrow. But
praying for somebody to lose his job.
Yeah, lose his job. A general manager of the New York Yankees. We're acting like he's like making ends meet. Let's relax. He'll get another job somewhere. Don't worry. He's not going to be on the unemployment line working soup kitchens and stuff.
He'll be the president of the White Sox.
Anyways, the problem I have with this tweet, and the problem where I have distance with some of my other Yankee fans friends and for some reason they associate me having a problem with this, with the way our fans react to this. They associate that with me being like a Brian Cashman defender. I am in no ways a Brian Cashman defender. What I will say is I'm a fan of 3 sports teams. Really 2. I'm a fan of the Knicks, but I am a diehard Jets and Yankees fan.
Right.
I cannot stand the Yankees fan base. I don't have a problem with the Jets fan base. Every fan base has their idiots, obviously.
Yeah.
The Yankee fans, I understand if you're not a Yankee fan and you say you hate Yankee fans, I do too. Because the people responding to this tweet, every single reply that would have 60 likes on it would be, actually, we all knew, Brian. You're the only one who didn't know. Which is the most asinine BS take I have ever heard. You cannot tell me that any Yankee fan you talk to this offseason, going into the season, was maybe they weren't happy with the way the offseason went. I remember talking to you saying we need another bat, but I'm happy about the Rodon signing. I'm thrilled we got Judge back. I think we're a playoff contender.
Playoff team.
Maybe we should have gone for it more, though. That was the frustration. Is Yankee fans were frustrated, and rightfully so, because they should have gone for it more in this World Series window that I'm talking about. But to say that you were not expecting them to be a playoff contender.
That's a joke.
Hindsight is 2020. That's what they're going based off of. That's the only thing that could come to mind for why they are saying that now. It's BS.
No, it's terrible.
And it's why we get the spoiled reputation. It's why we get the stuck-up reputation. Sure, rip into Brian Cashman as much as you want. I love ripping into Brian Cashman because he's done an awful job. He's made awful trades. Josh Donaldson and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa should be in the Yankees anti-Hall of Fame. They're literally detrimental to the team.
Guys that shouldn't be wearing pinstripes. You want to, really talk up the Yankee brand. Those guys, especially Donaldson.
Oh, by the way, love that you brought that up. The whole Yankee brand thing.
Gone.
Let it go.
Let it go.
How about win some World Series, win a World Series, win some big time playoff games, and then you could start telling guys, oh, you can't have facial hair. It's 2023, and you're not allowing guys to have facial hair, to have long hair.
Michael K.
But you want to put an insurance badge on the sleeve, that's okay. But God forbid you walk in with a little stubble.
Michael K. brings this up all the time, and he's right. They have to change the motto of, well, it's championship or bust. And Aaron Boone said it, I don't know how many years ago, a while ago, though, when they lost in the playoffs again, they said the league is caught up to the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
And it's been like that for years. Nobody but people within the organization and some delusional fans thought, oh, the league hasn't caught up. We're still the New York Yankees. No, you're not. You're not the franchise that other teams want to emulate.
Right.
The Braves are that team, and the Astros, and the Dodgers.
Right.
Those are the teams want to emulate. You are no longer that sort of franchise.
And what do those teams do? We talked about it with the way the Yankees have built this roster. Back then, you wanted to be the Yankees because we'll throw any money at any free agent. We'll get all these big guys. The Astros, the Dodgers, the Braves, all those teams have grown their own talent. We talk about the Braves, all these guys under control until 2030 or whatever. Yes, they've traded for Matt Olson. Yes, they've traded for Sean Murphy. Ronald Acuna, homegrown. Spencer Strider, homegrown. Ozzie Albies, homegrown. That's just to name a few.
Yeah.
They are no doubt a juggernaut baseball team because they've done a great job at homegrown talent and then adding around.
But those Yankee teams back then when they were winning championships also had homegrown talent with money now spent, and they became the evil empire because they had all these homegrown players, and then they had the guys that they went out and signed, spent around. That's what they have to do, and that's the formula. And
2009, it works once in a while, and it almost worked with the Phillies last year.
Yeah,
buying a championship is extremely hard to do.
All right, I do want to shift over here. In a second, I do want to talk about the Mets and these Pete Alonso rumors, because to even consider trading Pete Alonso would just be an absolute travesty if you're the New York Mets. Mookie Betts is going to return this weekend to Boston, okay, as the first time as a Dodger. And I'm looking at that and I'm saying to myself, this better not happen with Pete Alonso on the Mets. Like, I don't want to have to go to Citi Field one day and say, oh, Pete Alonso's first time back at Citi Field since being traded. That should not happen. One of the reasons why everybody was so happy about Steve Cohen buying the team, sure, he's going to sign free agents. But when you develop really great players or trade for really great players in your minor league system and bring them up, you are able to retain these guys. This should not happen. This is your franchise icon. He's going to lead your franchise in home runs by his 5th season in playing for your team. He has a chance to be a 500 home run hitter. He's going to be a Hall of Fame player if he continues the path as a power hitter. I mean, please, the analytical people might not think it's worth giving him a long-term contract, but there are some guys that are in your organization that you have on this team that you say, you know what, let's just bite the bullet. We're going to pay him because he's going to produce no matter what.
I agree. I think that it depends on what he's asking for. If he's asking for a ridiculous amount, this offseason, you're going to start talking extension this offseason.
It should have been started, and they have started talking extension.
Right. So if the numbers are crazy, then I'd consider the trade. But as long as they're within the realm of possibilities, and we know Steve Cohen's basically got a blank checkbook anyways. But I agree. This is a guy where he's a great homegrown talent. Let's be honest. The Mets' homegrown talent, position player-wise, in their franchise history,
that's the problem. That's the point.
Piazza's your big icon. He wasn't homegrown.
No, he's your...
David Wright is like your guy.
Yeah.
Like
and he's not a Hall of Famer.
Right.
And you could argue...
He would have been.
He would have been a Hall of Famer if he didn't deal with injuries, of course.
Yeah.
He was a fantastic talent. Not knocking David Wright, but he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
This is your guy. Like, this is the guy. We've been begging for years and years to have a guy that hits home runs. I mean, just hit home runs. Be a power hitter.
Yep.
And this guy's this good at hitting home runs. Mm-hmm. And listen... Sure, he takes the home run derby too seriously, and you think he's corny, la-di-la-di-la. He's not very well liked outside of the Mets fan base.
Player.
Good ball player, good guy. Okay, good guy.
Right.
But
that whole thing,
how funny.
The ball in the stands was pretty bad. I really thought he was being like an ass when he did that, and then the post-game interview I was like, all right.
He looked like he just had a brain fart.
Yeah. Plus, I got to say, that Marmol, that Cardinals manager, he's a little bit of a hothead.
I don't like that guy.
He's got to relax.
I don't like Marmol.
He's a little too crazy.
I don't like that team right now.
But I agree. I mean, I like the idea that the Mets had the balls to do it. They had the balls to get rid of Scherzer and of Verlander and of some other guys, because it's just not worth it. They weren't going to make a World Series run this year. So getting those prospects, rebuilding the farm, and basically doing a reset where they could be a World Series contending team in 2 or 3 years, depending on how great these prospects work out and how quick they come up through the system. But because that they're going to have the money to throw on top of it to put together good pieces around these guys.
Exactly what we just said, spending around your homegrown
I give them the credit of shopping guys around and stuff like that. But to trade Pete Alonso, it just... Especially at this point, doing it at the deadline, maybe it would have really sucked, but at least they did it then. To do it this offseason and go into next season with that stink, it's just
can't do it.
I don't like the idea. And I agree. I mean, the whole homegrown thing is a big deal.
And listen, I don't think anybody's untouchable. And any besides like the handful of guys, nobody's untouchable. You listen to any trade offer that comes through. The only untouchable guy I'm thinking of is like Patrick Mahomes. That's about it.
Yeah.
You listen to any trade offer you get, okay?
Right.
But don't do anything here.
No.
You want to move on to football?
I would love to move on to football.
Because I am pumped, and I don't know where we are going to start. We are going to talk a little Jets football in a little bit. Let's talk Jonathan Taylor. He received permission to seek a trade from the Colts. It's funny because obviously Jim Irsay was very outspoken and too outspoken about how he valued Jonathan Taylor and how he's not going to pay him. Kind of crazy, though, that they're asking for top-of-the-market value in terms of what they're going to get back in a trade. They want a first-round pick back. They're not going to get that because on top of trading for him, you're also going to have to pay Jonathan Taylor probably $14 million plus annually. No team is going to want to do that, as good as Taylor is. So I don't think he's going to get moved. I think he'll end up playing for the Colts here. What are your thoughts?
I think that if anything, he'll be a deadline guy. I don't see him getting traded before the season starts. You have teams that it's August 24th, August 25th by the time it's going. Like these teams have their plans in like training camp just ended. Like the Jets had their training camp end today. So trading for a Jonathan Taylor and giving up draft capital at this point in the season, it's really not worth it. They're out of their mind. They're salty about the Trent Richardson trade 10 years ago, which wow. Like, you want to talk about bad trades. They traded for Trent Richardson, one of the biggest busts in NFL history. They took him from the Browns and gave them a first-round pick for him. So they're not getting a first-round pick.
We've evolved. We have evolved as,
we learn from mistakes.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
In some areas, not in other areas of the world. But in sports, running backs, yes, we've evolved.
Right. Especially for the running back, and like you're saying, you got to find a team that A, wants him, and B, that's going to pay him.
Right.
So those two things combined, you're really not – first of all, your options are very limited. We know how hard it is for running backs to get paid right now. Ask Tony Pollard, ask Josh Jacobs, ask Saquon. Like, it is not easy for these running backs to get paid. So the options to me are just so small, and I really don't see him getting traded. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if he's going to play. Who knows what's going to happen with this guy.
And fantasy value, too.
Yeah.
Not liking where he falls, especially with a couple of my picks.
No.
I heard Brandon Beane. That's the name of the general manager of the Bills, right? Brandon Beane. He was on a podcast a couple of days ago, and he was mentioning how they asked him the question, like, how do you view the running back thing here? Like, not paying running backs. And he had said, and I think he makes a great point, that you kind of have to do both. You have to be a very good receiver, and you have to also be able to run the ball.
Right.
You need to just be that star player. You have to be that Le'Veon Bell type of back if you want to get paid the money that they're asking. And, again, Le'Veon Bell got paid. Wasn't a good move, obviously, but he got paid after sitting out a year, but it was because of his production and what he could do on a football field. I think that's kind of the solution for running backs.
Right.
Be able to line up in the slot and go out.
Right.
And catch a ball and be a legit receiver while also running the ball.
But
I think that's going to have to be the wave for these guys.
That is the way it works, but it's messed up that that's the way it works, because you cannot tell me by giving a guy like Nick Chubb the ball 350 times a year, but he doesn't catch a lot of passes, and then tell him, you're not that valuable to our football team that we're willing to pay you that much money because you don't really run routes well or you don't catch the ball well.
But
I'd say you give the ball to me a pretty damn big amount of time to say that to me.
And listen, I'm not diminishing Nick Chubb at all. He's one of the 5 best running backs. You think he's the best running back in football right now. But when you have a really good offensive line and you can put another running back there and they can have success, maybe not the same success, but some success running the football, they are very replaceable. Running backs are just very replaceable nowadays, and it's tough. It's not ideal, but that's just the way it is, and that's the way these offenses have been schemed up.
But you know what? One thing I'll come to defense for running backs for, I witnessed it firsthand last year with the Jets and with the way their offense just slowed down after the Breece Hall injury. It's a real thing. I mean, I know AVT, Elijah Vera-Tucker, got hurt around the same time, but to say that Elijah Vera-Tucker versus Breece Hall, which one would have hurt the offense more, the way the running game just went completely down the tubes. AVT's a great lineman, but I'm going to go with Breece Hall in that case. These running backs do provide a spark. If you have good running backs like the Falcons, I know Bijan's a guy who can catch the ball too. They are going to benefit a lot by having Bijan on this offense.
Yeah, but
ask Derrick Henry and the Titans where they'd be without him too.
And I can't wait for that to be a discussion too, because Bijan is stop. Okay, I'm sorry. I get excited.
What do you? You're like a dog. You're like a dog taking a piss with his leg up.
I have the point that I'm about to make.
Okay. It's like, I'm glad something else isn't sticking up because you're excited.
Wow. Holy crap. Anyway, I can't wait for this to be a discussion because Bijan Robinson he's going to be offensive rookie of the year. He's going to have a fantastic season. They have a good offensive line. Arthur Smith likes to run the ball. He's going to put up big-time numbers. And they might win 8-9 games, and they might have a chance to win that division.
They are. I
don't think so, but we will see. I cannot wait for that to be the discussion. Oh, well, look, you drafted a running back first, and they won the division. I cannot wait.
Right.
They're going to play in a terrible division. They're going to play a terrible schedule.
Right. And
he's going to have this fantastic year, and they may have a chance at a playoff spot. Yeah. That's going to enrage me because the year after they're going to go 4-13, and Bijan's going to have this fantastic year, but they went 4-13, and then me, all ball-knowing human being, is going to say, look what happens. Look what happened. You still don't have a freaking quarterback, and you expect to win.
Kind of like what happened to the Indianapolis Colts when they went 9-8 when Jonathan Taylor had a great season, and the next year he gets hurt, blah, 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 but yeah, they were one of the worst teams of football last year.
I like JT, though. I'm a big Jonathan Taylor fan. So that is that. We're going to run through the Jets schedule in a little bit. I do want to go here, though, before we talk about the Jets. Sam Darnold is the backup quarterback in San Francisco. Trey Lance will now be the third string. And, earlier in the offseason, well, it's not really the offseason anymore, but, in the offseason, there were discussions for a trade with Trey Lance to go elsewhere. Nothing ever really came of it before the draft. And now we're sitting here again, and it looks like he's going to be moved. By the way, the team I just mentioned, the Atlanta Falcons, would be a perfect fit. Just saying. But anyway, Trey Lance most likely going to be moved. I was a huge Trey Lance guy. It's crazy the lack of opportunities this guy has had in his career. Not just NFL career, college career. And now we're sitting in this situation with Trey Lance. Unreal. And it wasn't his fault. It was COVID. It was being, the backup, redshirted, whatever it was at North Dakota State. But we're in this situation now. Purdy's going to be the starter. And Sam Darnold, your boy Sam Darnold,
my boy,
is going to be the backup quarterback over there.
I agree that Trey Lance hasn't had the most opportunities in his career. One thing I would say, though, is this is a different situation. The San Francisco 49ers are not in a rebuild. They are in a rebuild in the quarterback position for the past couple of years for sure. But the whole team is not in a rebuild. I mean, this is a team that we saw make the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Top 3 roster.
This is a team that we expect to be a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
So we aren't in the Niners building. We aren't watching their practices and this and that. Trey Lance, I can guarantee you, has gotten his opportunities to run with the ones in the offense and practice and everything like that. Clearly, this coaching staff does not have the confidence to even put him out there and take that chance with the great roster that he has around them, because they know that they're in the Super Bowl window and they're going to have to start paying these big stars on their defense and on the offensive side of the ball, and that the clock is ticking. And they obviously, it's sad that Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold are the other two quarterbacks on the roster, and Trey Lance still cannot beat them out or even beat one of them out to get the backup job. But obviously, he sucks. I'm sorry. He's just not a good quarterback.
Let me say this, because, again, I think the lack of opportunities is a big thing. And, sure, practice is one thing. But might it be that Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers are saying, we're going to be safe here? We're just going to make the safe play. We know Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold can run the offense the way we want the offense to be run. Trey Lance might be a little bit more advanced, might not be able to do the simple things that we need him to do, but the advanced things, outside of the system, he might be able to make those plays. I don't know. I just feel like Purdy and Darnold are the safe plays right now for San Francisco. But
that's what they've built this entire, I'm not going to call them a dynasty because they haven't won a Super Bowl, but this entire powerhouse team on over the past couple of years that's all they needed Jimmy Garoppolo to do, was to go out there and play to their system and cater to their system and be a bit of a glorified game manager.
Well, you know what? Then they
shouldn't have drafted Trey Lance. And by the way, this is going to be one of the worst trades of all time.
It could be.
This is going to be like we talk about Herschel Walker's always like the poster boy for the worst trade in NFL history. This is at least Herschel Walker was a good player in the NFL. This is really bad.
I can't stand, though, seeing so I keep seeing this going on, the players that were drafted after Trey Lance.
Right.
Okay.
The Niners were looking for those players.
Exactly. Okay, you want to show me before they traded up? I forget what pick they were, 12 or something like that, right, around that range. You want to show me the players drafted after that? Fine.
Right.
Okay, and what they could have had. But do not show me, Penny Sewell, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, whoever else was drafted.
Yeah, draft Penny Sewell to replace Trent Williams.
Exactly. They're
Mike McGlinchey, too.
They were never trading up for those guys.
Right.
So, yeah, the draft class was, there's a lot of really good players in that draft class. Right. But San Francisco was never taking one of those guys. It was a bad trade. Look at the first-round picks they gave up and what they could have had in those picks.
Yeah. That is similar to what you're saying with the picks, what they turned into. Maybe they wouldn't have drafted these players, but it is pretty damn funny to look at Jalen Waddle and Bradley Chubb and Tyreek Hill is what it turned into. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Credit Miami for doing a good job, too.
Yeah, yep.
Made some, really good trades and a nice draft.
A lot of connection there. Yeah. Mike McDaniel, Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert, those guys we just talked about,
That's
trade.
The last offensive coordinator that left there. I thinking about it the other day. Yeah. In my head, I'm like, who was the offensive coordinator?
He was the OC? I thought he wasn't just the quarterback's coach or anything. He was the offensive coordinator? I'm just asking. I'm not correcting you.
When did your boy get the job, LaFleur? 21.
What's with everybody's my boy?
Well, he's on your team.
Well, not anymore.
He was on your team.
Yeah,
he was.
He was
supposed to be the next head coach?
They hired him when he came with Saleh. So 2021, like Wilson's rookie year.
Maybe he was the OC that year, McDaniel, 21, and then got the job in 22.
Right.
Last year was his first
year.
Yeah,
he was the OC.
I think he was.
Yeah.
He was the quarterback's coach, and then he was the OC, I think. Anyway, he's your boy, though.
Yeah, everybody's my boy.
Mike LaFleur.
I love big Mike LaFleur guy over
Mike
here.
LaFleur was a big Mike LaFleur guy. And Joe Brady, they were supposed to be the next, young offensive geniuses.
Right, the next connoisseurs. The renaissance
coaches
of football.
Yeah. No, that's what it was projected.
By the way, he got another OC job, right, Mike LaFleur?
He's an OC.
Rams. Did you know?
Oh, yeah.
Because the whole tree or whatever.
Yeah, no,
listen to how crazy this is. I just found this out the other day. I want you to guess, and everybody watching right now, guess how many new offensive coordinators there are in the NFL right now. How many teams have a new offensive coordinator for the 2023 season?
12.
16. Wow. Half the league has a new offensive coordinator.
That's big.
That's crazy.
People don't realize how big that is because about half of those guys are going to miss.
Yeah.
Okay, and the offensive systems are not going to be that great.
Yep.
Yeah, I was petrified that the Giants were going to lose their OC.
Yep.
Petrified they were going to lose him.
Yep.
And they have him for one more year. He's going to get a job after Kafka.
Mm-hmm.
Just petrified the Giants were going to lose the OC. That's big time. I believe this. Dayball leaving Buffalo, I think had something to do with that offense not being as efficient as they were last year. A lot of people thought that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, one thing we always talk about is, new offensive coordinator. I like the way this offense looks. Nobody talks about it the other way around. Is OC left, little worried about the offense.
Even Philly,
you know what I mean?
Philly a little bit. Listen, they have a fantastic roster, and Sirianni seems like he's a good coach.
But that was sort of their reputation last year, was savvy off that QB sneak, unstoppable. They had certain plays that they were known for, their swagger.
Little worried about that, especially with a tough schedule in the middle of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Eagles, and we talked about them a couple episodes ago, but
I think we agree on who's winning that division. I think we're both.
I'm still not completely
I like
Dallas. I still really believe in the Eagles. I'm still not 100% sure. When we do our prediction show in the next couple weeks, whenever we do it.
Next week.
Yeah. That is going to be like I'm going to do that same thing we did last year with the whole predict every game thing.
I like Dallas. I think Dallas will win the division. I have a nice amount of money on Dallas winning the division this year, by the way.
I'm almost there with every division winner with who I think. I'm still debating. NFC's.
By the way, before
North-South is confused. I'm a little stuck.
Before we get to the Jets, you're bringing up research, and I haven't done a ton of research yet. I was away for a week, another cruise. But
more cruises.
I need to say this. I have done zero fantasy football research, okay? And you might be the part of the problem here, okay? I think, not really in terms of the fantasy football nerds, okay? But I think fantasy football nerds and people obsessed with fantasy football have actually ruined fantasy football now. I think it is being taken way too seriously. It's kind of a joke. And it used to be this fun thing that you do. You draft, you're gambling. It's going to affect my Sundays now, and it affects all of our Sundays now.
It's always affected my Sundays.
But now it's really pissing me off. It really is. It's not right.
I just think it's great. It's competition. I think there's money on the line. I really enjoy it. I think it's just like anything. I agree. I think there's certain parts of it where, I'll even have to check myself on a Sunday and be like, all right, this is affecting your mood a little too much, or stop checking your fantasy score every 5 minutes and stuff like that. But what else will we be doing, man? It's football Sunday.
Worry about your bets going in.
Oh, yeah. That's better. Right.
I can't wait for that to stress me out.
Right. That's great.
Upload the FanDuel account.
I think you just got to do more research. Maybe you get a little better at it.
Tomorrow I have the morning off for the first time in a while. I think that's what I have to do.
Yeah.
I have to sit there and do research on fantasy football. And it's because of these nerds. They're obsessed with fantasy football. Anyway, very quickly, we're going to run down the Jet schedule in a little bit. We did that with the Giants last year. I do want to run through the Jet schedule. A little concerned with the Jets right now is their offensive line. Mekhi Becton's going to start in the preseason game, which Aaron Rodgers is afraid of the New York Giants. We'll continue to say that. So the Jets have to start him in the Snoopy Bowl. But he's going to play on Saturday. Mekhi Becton as well. He's looked good so far in preseason and training camp, but to me, the offensive line is still somewhat of a concern. And really, I think the only thing that's going to hold this Jets team back, if there was anything that was going to hold them back, it's going to be the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me 2 weeks ago or even the beginning of last week, I would have rated on a scale of 1 to 10, my concern about this offensive line to be about a 9. Like, it was very high. Now I'd say it's about a 6. Becton has a big deal to do with why that number came down. He's playing great. Obviously, I'm knocking on wood, but any moment you feel like this guy, it's just like he could be toast with injuries. But Dwayne Brown's coming back, just got cleared. Elijah Vera Tucker, didn't have any major injuries, just a little. He was out for like a week or something like that. But I think with a healthy offensive line of Dwayne Brown, Laken Tomlinson, Connor McGovern, Elijah Vera Tucker, and Mekhi Becton with Joe Tippmann, and you got some nice depth
Tomlinson.
there too. I'm fairly confident in that offensive line, even if they're middle of the pack. I'm not saying this is going to be an all-pro offensive line.
If
they play like a middle of the pack offensive line, you're talking about, and I just want to go out there and defend my Jets a little bit right now because I see people, these idiots like Nick Wright on the national media. I understand being annoyed with the Jets with how much media attention they've gotten. Even at some points, I'm like, all right, this is a little crazy.
They didn't ask for it.
But this is what makes football fun. Like these are these big moves, these big storylines. This is what we all eat up. But to go out there and say that this team, their ceiling is a playoff, like they sneak into the playoffs, it's just a lazy take. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a team where I don't really see a low floor with this Jets team. Like, I think their floor is like a 7-win team, what they were last year, which even at that point, it'd have to, again, knock on wood, it'd have to involve a Rodgers injury or something like that. But to have a top 5 defense and these young weapons on the offense and a solid offensive line, that's where the offensive line could go downhill. Is if you're saying that's what their floor is, the offensive line sucks. But to say that this team, their ceiling, adding a Hall of Fame quarterback and having the offensive and defensive rookie of the year in a top 5 defense and the other offensive rookie of the year last year if he stayed healthy, to say that their ceiling is a sneak-in playoff team.
How about do
you want just more clicks on your videos?
How about I make you more mad? How about Colin Cowherd yesterday?
Oh,
my boy.
The guy who thinks that Geno Smith and the Seahawks are in the AFC.
Yes.
Right, that Colin Cowherd.
Yes, Colin Cowherd said that the Giants, he would not be shocked if the Giants finish with a better record than the Jets. Like, he just kind of sees that
I don't think
moving.
that's yeah, okay. I don't think it's like ridiculous. The Giants go 11-6, the Jets go 10-7. Okay. Big deal.
Yeah.
I see I just saw someone yesterday asking me, "What do you think about the Giants?" And I said last week I predicted them to go 7-10, but I could also see them going 10-7.
Yeah,
I think if Darren Waller stays healthy, I think if Daniel Jones takes another step, he doesn't take a huge step, he just takes another step, right? Defense plays pretty solid. This could be a 10-7 team.
Yeah, in a weak NFC. And by the way, we went through the schedule a couple of weeks ago, and we were like, oh, it's a tough schedule, I looked at it again the other day, and I'm like,
it's a tough beginning schedule.
It's not that bad. Like, It is definitely doable. We'll see. Giants added Isaiah Simmons.
And let's remember, last year you look at the Giants, if you're a Giants fan last year, you're saying, we got to play the Packers.
Yeah. Ravens. Packers-Ravens back-to-back.
Tough.
One in London.
That's really tough.
Won both games.
And then Packers go win 7 games last year. 8 games, whatever they won. So you don't know what these teams are going to look like. Same thing. You're playing the Bears last year. They're 2-1. You're going into that game going, oh, crap, the Bears are pretty good. The Bears end up 3-14.
By the way, did not say that going into that Bears game.
Well, yeah, okay. Maybe you didn't.
I did not say that going into the Bears game.
Okay.
I can't wait to talk about the Bears in the preseason rankings. By the way, you said something a couple weeks ago about the Packers. Hey, they're going to win the division, and I called you crazy. I'm actually kind of...
Look at that. He's coming back.
I'm coming around on the Packers. I actually think I'm going to bet them to win the division at plus 400. That might be one of my better bets.
That's a good bet.
It's a really good bet. With a good defense, solid offensive line, they'll be able to run the ball, young weapons, in a weak division, weak NFC.
Yep.
I think the quarterback schedule is the second easiest schedule for a quarterback in the entire league. Yep. Love doesn't have to do too much. Nope. I think the Packers could really win that division.
And I'm pretty confident in Jordan Love. I think he's going to have a nice season.
I think the Vikings. I know
Vikings are going to suck.
I think the Vikings are going to be like a 7-win team.
Yeah.
The Vikings are not making the playoffs, not sniffing the
If
playoffs.
that.
They'll be a good offensive team. Jefferson will have a great year. Hawkinson. I like Jordan Addison as well. And I think Kirk will be fine, but it's that defense is they're going to give
defense is going to be awful.
They're going to give up 30 points.
Yeah.
They might get 30 points again.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. We come back, run through the Jets schedule, and we're going to talk about the NFC and AFC West. Very excited for that. Could be two of the best divisions in football right there. Possibly. Top 4 divisions.
Bottom of the
Top
NFC
4.
West. Bottom of the NFC West, I'm not sure. But bottom of the AFC West, not sure. We'll get into it.
Rank the divisions. Okay. We'll rank the divisions, and we'll talk about those divisions when we come back. All right, let's run through the Jets schedule here. It's pretty brutal to start the season, but I think what people are forgetting, and like you mentioned before, Nick Wright, like they have an elite defense.
Yes.
So even if the offense, which I believe will struggle to start the season, which is really it would be normal for their offense to struggle to start this season, their defense is going to be able to carry them through some games. So let's go through the schedule. We'll be a little bit more organized than we were a couple of weeks ago when we did the Giants schedule. So we'll start out week 1, Monday Night Football at home against Buffalo.
Yeah, this is a tough game because they beat Buffalo last year at home, but this is a primetime game, Rodgers' first start. Just because they beat them at home last year with Zach Wilson, that doesn't mean they're just going to automatically beat them this year. I'm going to give them the win. It's going to be tough. I know I just prefaced all that stuff, but I'm going to say primetime home game, a lot of excitement. Maybe there's a little bit of jitters, and if the defense wasn't as good as it is, maybe I'd say the opposite, but I think they're going to win this game. I think they'll split with Buffalo.
See, I'm not high on Buffalo this season. This is a tough game, though, at home. I think Buffalo is going to be looking to prove to everybody that last season, especially later on when they were struggling, kind of a fluke. The tough part is I think through the first 4 games, they'll be 2-2. I just don't know which games they're going to win or not.
Right. I think they're going to the only thing I think Buffalo's going to struggle to score here. And I agree that I think the Jets, that like we were doing last week, where I'd say the Giants lost this game, won that game, and then I'd be like, or lost 2 in a row, but I'd be like, I don't think they're going to lose 2 in a row. I think they'll win one of those games. So I get what you're saying.
They'll be 2-2. I'll say they lose to Buffalo and beat Dallas.
I was going to say the opposite.
Okay.
So I'm going to say beat Buffalo, lose to Dallas.
Although my Dallas, if the Giants beat Dallas week 1, Dallas 0-2, not great for my division bets.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's not going to work out that way. Patriots at home, they'll beat them.
They finally get it done, and it's not going to be just some they're going to kill them.
No.
Belichick
will be ready.
It'll probably be a game, but I think they finally get it done and beat the freaking Patriots.
And then the Chiefs,
loss.
Probably a loss at home.
Yeah, they'll go 2-2 to start.
All right, this is going to be a controversial game, obviously, with everything with Sean Payton going on. Jets at Denver. I'm gonna give the Jets a loss here. I think that's a tough place to play.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going win. I'm gonna say they beat Denver.
We're both
did it last year. They'll do it again.
So you're 3-2. I'm 2-2.
I'm 3-2. You're 2-3.
Yeah, sorry. I think for the first time in franchise history, they beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the Jets lose this one. It's gonna be a lot of Eagles fans too. The Giants know that pretty well when the Eagles come to New York.
But more so, I think for this game too. Like I think they're really gonna show up.
I think the Jets will still have home field advantage, but I think the Eagles are going to have a pretty warm welcome from their own fans at this game.
You'll have 55-45.
And, I think the Eagles are just a great team, so I'm going to say loss. So 3-3 going into the bye, which, by the way, I am very happy with if that's what happens.
You should absolutely sign up for that. Yeah. I agree, 3-3 at the bye. And then they come out of the bye against the Giants. I think they'll do that. I think they'll beat the Giants coming out of the bye here, 4-3.
4-3.
Chargers at home.
Yep.
I can't get a read on this team. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. Can't get a read on the Chargers. Jets 4-3. I'm going to give them a win here.
They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. The Chargers. I think they're going to have a good season, but I am also going to give the Jets a win here. I think they're going to win 3 in a row out of the bye.
And if you're going to be one of these great teams that we're talking about, even though you're playing another good team, like you got to win these games.
Yes.
You got to win those games. At Las Vegas, I agree. Another win. What do we have the Jets at here? We're both at 6-3. And they'll go to Buffalo and lose.
I think yes. I think they'll be 6-4 now because it'll be very tough to sweep Buffalo. I think if you get one win against them, you're very happy. So in Buffalo, 425 game, nothing special there. But which, by the way, love the 425. To me, the 425 has more of a primetime feel sometimes than a primetime game.
100. I love the 425.
Love the 425 window. Like, when you're sitting there, I'm literally getting, like, a nostalgia kick right now. When you're sitting downstairs, 6:30, mom yells, pasta's ready.
We're a little later. We're closer.
You're a little later.
We're closer to the 8:15.
Really?
For pasta.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true.
We're, like, finishing up.
Well, but for my sake.
Yeah, your sake.
A Sunday dinner, even a little shorter than that, 6 o'clock sometimes. My family eats late, but on Sundays, for some reason, we flip the switch. We eat at, like, freaking 5 o'clock.
That's what you're supposed to do on Sundays.
But eating that in the 425 window, it's great. Well, I mean, what's better?
Nothing.
We turn into lazy slobs for football, and it's fantastic. No one cares.
There's nothing better.
No shame.
I was trying to explain to people on the radio today, like they're not the biggest football fans. I'm trying to tell them, you don't have to get up from 1 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and you're entertained.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Go for a hike?
Come on. What else is there to do on a Sunday?
Really? You wash your car.
You know when you go out,
work out.
Those
are what during the week things are for.
When you go outside on a Christmas day, right, and there's nobody on the road, like that's how every NFL Sunday should look. Like, nobody on the road. Like what else are you doing?
Close the streets.
Exactly. Where the hell were we? We're 6-4.
Yes.
All right, the Black Friday game. It looks like the Jets are going to win 3 straight here. I think they win the Black Friday game at home against Miami at 3 o'clock, which is going to be entertaining as hell.
Yep.
Home against Atlanta, that's a win. And then 3 straight home games against the Texans here.
Right.
Jets are 9-4.
Jets are 9-4. I agree. I think they, I think Atlanta. I like Atlanta. I said they're going to win the division, but I don't think
Jets win that game. Jets win that game. Minimum 2 touchdowns.
Right.
Minimum 2 touchdowns.
I agree. I think that's going to be a really bad matchup for Atlanta, and I think they're going to really struggle. I think Atlanta puts up like 13 points that game.
Yeah, and the Jets put up like 31.
Yeah.
All right, so we both have the Jets 9-4.
9-4.
They'll go to Miami and lose.
They will lose that game.
They'll 9-5.
Yep.
I think they're going to go 1-2 to finish the year here.
I think they're going to go 2-1. I think they'll beat Washington, lose to Cleveland, and then beat New England in New England, which they have not done in God knows how long.
Yeah.
I think this is an 11-6. That's what I have in mind.
All right, so I'm around 10. I'll say 10-7. Yeah. I'm 11-6, 10-7 here.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a tough schedule.
It softens up though. Like those 3 straight games. Miami's done a soft game, but I think coming off the loss, plus the prime time at home, different kind of game on Amazon Prime Black Friday, they win that game.
I'll tell you one thing. Like I keep saying about this defense, when you have a good defense or great defense, you have a much more calmer outlook at your schedule because you'll be in a lot of these games.
100%.
Especially, we were talking about quarterback schedules. This is kind of nuts. We'll go through the schedule one more time.
Go.
Josh Allen.
Yep.
Dak Prescott.
Sure.
Mac Jones.
Elite.
Enough. Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. By the way, I really need to go to that game. I mean, what other opportunity I'm going to get?
Had an
argument to watch
Had
Mahomes.
An argument with my boss today. He was like, told my friend to sell the Chiefs tickets. I don't care how much you get for those games. You go to those games. Yeah, just like I'm the idiot that's going to bring myself to Citi Field and hope and pray Ohtani.
How do you feel about that? Are you going to be able to see him?
They say he's going to
play? Okay. Anyway. Russell Wilson.
Yep.
Not high on Denver. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Jalen
Hurts. Daniel Jones.
Elite.
Justin Herbert. Jimmy Garoppolo. Josh Allen. Tua. Desmond Ridder, C.J. Stroud. See, this is now the part where you're putting a little smile on your face. Desmond Ridder, C.J. Stroud, Tua again, Sam Howell. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows what we're going to see about any preseason superhero. Deshaun Watson, or at that point, maybe Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Wow. You think it's going to be that bad for them?
I'm kidding.
Love DTR,
But
though.
I am not high on Deshaun Watson at all this year.
I think I'm a little high on him.
I'm not high on him at all. And then Mac Jones to finish off the year. So that stretch from week 1 to week 9, you're facing Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes.
You forgot.
Right. I forgot Daniel Jones and Mac Jones and Russell Wilson. But those, I'll even leave out Dak. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Jesus, and Justin Herbert. Those are, I think, the top 5 quarterbacks I had. I had Joe Burrow in there too. Right. But those are like, you could make an argument that those are the top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah. Not bad.
Should be fun.
That'll be fun for your defense.
Real fun.
Yeah. Your defense will have fun with that. All right. Enough Jet talk. Let's move on to the AFC and NFC West. We'll start in the AFC West. Just, breaking it down a little bit, right? I'm not going alphabetical order here. Okay.
Good, thank God. Please, no more alphabetical order.
It takes me way too long to process everything and what I'm doing. Am I doing the team name? Am I doing the city? We're just going to start with the order of the division last season. We'll start Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions. They're going to have, a little adjusting to do, losing both tackles. Yep. Right? Jawan Taylor and who's the other tackle?
Orlando Brown.
So... No, they lost Orlando Brown.
Yeah, they lost
saying
Orlando
who's coming in. Oh, Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor. I'm saying Jawan Taylor's name right?
I believe so, yes. I think so.
They're going to have a little adjusting to do.
Yep.
While they're still going to be elite, they're still going to be probably the best team in the AFC. We've seen Patrick Mahomes with a shaky offensive line. We saw him in that Super Bowl against Tampa Bay. It was not good. I don't think the offensive line is going to be shaky, but, again, it could be a tough start for the offensive line to adjust.
I see this team having a little bit of a step back. I know we said that last year, and then they went on to win the Super Bowl. But yeah. I think that they will certainly still be a team you do not want to run into this season. You do not want to run into them in the playoffs. I don't see a 1-seed Kansas City Chiefs season, though. I see them having trouble winning this division. I don't see them running away with it. I see it being a real challenge for them. I think the Chargers are going to give them a really hard time. I just think the overall roster around them, it's that defense has always been underrated, but big thing hanging over their head right now, Chris Jones. Who knows what's going to happen?
Their best defensive player.
Who knows what's going to happen with that? By far their best defensive player. I mean, they have, like I said, a pretty sneaky good defense, but he is the only superstar on that defense. Yeah. So that's a problem. And then receiver-wise, we've seen Patrick Mahomes can do it without great receivers, but he's at least had solid receivers. Like if this receiver room starts getting some injuries and stuff like that, lost Harmon. Like it could get pretty bad. Tony is a guy who needs to be wrapped in bubble wrap.
Cannot rely on Kadarius
the field. And I don't really know if I could see this team being. You can only rely on Patrick Mahomes so much. Yeah. Is basically my point. So the roster around him needs to play better than the back of their football card in this instance.
Yeah, I think they're going to win the division. I think they're still a top, 2 team.
The top 5 team in football for sure.
Who do you think's the 1 seed though? Cincinnati? Or is there the outside chance that Jacksonville wins 12 games and that's good enough? I still think they have I don't think you're not saying this. I think they're probably one of the 2 teams I would say that has the 1 seed in the AFC.
I think it's going to be one of those seasons like we saw with the Titans 2 years ago with the 1 seed at 12-5. I think you're going to see that. I don't know if I could see a team going.
So Jacksonville.
Especially with how competitive this conference is going to be, I don't know if you could see a team going 13-4.
I think it'll be Baltimore. It's going to be Baltimore.
I know you're very high on Baltimore, and I like Baltimore. I'm very high on Baltimore in fantasy football. I'm very high on Lamar Jackson as an MVP possibly. But Baltimore in terms of winning the division,
I got to get to New Jersey.
I'm not sure about it. I think I like the pick. I like the pick of them winning. The Bengals, maybe, is this a stupid statement? The Bengals have like a little stink around them, a little bit. Joe Burrow injury. Joe Mixon's had some problems.
I don't know about
little tiny, like, something's a little off.
I don't think stink. I think they talk a lot of crap, and I've mentioned this before. I think they talk a lot. Like, they're obviously, and Chase is a big guy that does that too. Like, Burrow doesn't. Burrow's a lot of coach speak. His dad's a coach.
Right.
Burrow knows how to talk to the media.
Right.
Knows how to play his cards right. Talk a lot, though.
Yeah.
Don't love that for a team that hasn't won anything yet. But I don't know. I don't think so.
I like the Bengals.
I know you love the Bengals.
It's just it's so hard to win a division year after year after year, and maybe we get clouded by this whole preseason hype and the new exciting team, and that in this instance is the Baltimore Ravens just because of the moves they've made this offseason and the new coaches and everything like that. So maybe that's what the trap I'm falling into right now.
But they didn't make that big move. Like, they improved their receiving core, which they desperately needed to do.
Right.
But like, they didn't go out there and like get make the Aaron Rodgers kind of move. And Odell Beckham Jr. is really not being overhyped the way I thought he would be overhyped, which is a good thing because he doesn't deserve that.
Right.
Flowers had a great camp. We saw him on display in preseason.
Yeah.
Also remember something about this Baltimore Ravens team, and I'm going to get back to the AFC West in a minute. Baltimore plays Kansas City very tough. Never back down from Kansas City.
Right.
I remember the game stuck in my memory from 21 when Harbaugh went for it. They got the fourth down, and they beat Kansas City at home in a high-scoring game. Right. They do not back down. They're not afraid of Kansas City. Right. And they played Cincinnati very tough and should have won a playoff game with their backup quarterback in Cincinnati last year if Tyler Huntley doesn't drop the ball trying to score a touchdown.
And then it goes the other way for 6.
Right. So, very close to what Cincinnati was last season. Yeah. But we'll talk about Baltimore, especially next week when we do our prediction. We got the Chiefs there. The Chargers are very interesting. This whole week, I've been getting flashes because I was high on the Chargers last year.
Like heat flashes?
No, right? Flashes like, is this a Chargers year?
Right.
Is this a Chargers year?
Right.
I've been early on a lot of predictions.
Yeah.
Luis Robert last year, he has a great year this year. Not the MVP, but great year.
You did do that
Jose
with
Barrios, not the AL Cy Young, but he's having a really good bounce-back year.
Yep.
I've been early on a lot of these predictions lately, and I hope wasn't early. I'm not taking the Chargers right now.
Right.
I hope I wasn't early, but they look good.
They do look good, and I think I'm not a big fan of the coach, but
hate the coach.
I think that Kellen Moore can do a good job here, and I think this offense could be improved and much more efficient. I mean, watching the Chargers last year was great if you had Austin Eckler in fantasy football, but as a football fan, it was very tough to watch. Not an efficient offense at all. Justin Herbert, was just not really being used to his potential, to be honest with you, because he couldn't sit back there and really sling it. He was just throwing these old dump downs constantly. So defense should be good. Maybe not great. That's where you might lose him a little bit, but offense, obviously a big fan. The weapons. The one problem the Chargers had on offense last year was health, and the other was wide receiver depth. And they improved that with Quentin Johnson. So I think they're going to be really good.
Love Herbie, obviously. Like you said, Staley, not a big fan of Staley. And the owner's cheap.
There's 2 teams coming out of this and making the playoffs. That's it. Broncos aren't making the playoffs. Raiders aren't making the playoffs.
All right.
I think the Raiders are going to suck. I know some people are saying the Raiders are going to be pretty good. I think the Raiders are going to be a 5-win.
Let's go out of order here because I thought that, and then I saw a clip. I'm blanking on who I saw it from. But when you look at the Raiders' traits, right, what the Raiders have, they have a left tackle, okay, which is important in this league.
You love your left tackles.
I'm a huge left tackle guy.
Yeah, it's a very important position, but you really love
No, I love left. You have a left tackle? Yeah. You're in my book. They have a left tackle. They have a very good pass rush. Very good pass rush. Crosby's unreal. They have pretty nice offensive weapons, I would say. Devontae Adams, pretty good player. Mm-hmm. Jacobs, if he comes back, pretty good player. They have, I mentioned the defense.
A terrible defense, right?
Well, they got the pass rush.
It's not a good defense.
I'm not saying it's good defense.
They're not going to be good at stopping the run.
They have qualities.
A bad secondary and no linebackers.
They have some qualities of being a decent team, but it's I could really see them competing for Caleb Williams. I could see it going either way, where they're 8-9 and they were sneaky good, or they were really bad.
You want to talk about, like I said, Brandon Staley? I don't like the coach. I can't believe in the coach any less than with the Raiders.
Yeah,
I do not like McDaniels.
It was clouded with how bad.
Remember we did that thing that the worst football team draft, and you drafted Hackett and I drafted McDaniels, and we were it was pretty easy to choose those two.
But he is getting overlooked because of how bad Hackett was last season. He's almost getting a pass McDaniels at this point.
It's all right, he's bad, but that was really bad.
That was the worst thing we've ever seen. But
at least it wasn't that bad.
We didn't forget about you.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's exactly what's happening. And then
the same division.
Denver. We're talking about Hackett. I don't think the Broncos didn't really do anything this offseason. They really didn't do anything.
Their defense is really good.
Just to say, Sean Payton's here.
I think
we're going to turn it around.
I do believe that.
I don't think that's how it's going to work.
See,
yeah, sure, it gets bad. It can't get worse than it was last year. And I understand people might say, oh, well, look what happened with the Jaguars. Urban Meyer left and Doug Peterson came over, and they turned into a great team. Yeah, well, great teams have stretched. They won 9 games. But I understand that this could be possible with a new head coach. Call me crazy, all right? Why is it that Geno Smith has a great year last year out of nowhere and the Seahawks are willing to trade Russell Wilson? Then Russell Wilson comes over to Denver, has a worse year than Geno Smith and just, a bad season in general as a quarterback. Why is it that we don't think, Russell Wilson, guy who's in his 30s now, in his mid-30s, leaves Seattle. Geno does great there. Who's to say that Seattle isn't just a great situation for a quarterback, and Pete Carroll knows how to make his quarterback exceed and succeed. Now Russell Wilson comes over to Denver, all of a sudden, new team, new system. Maybe Russ isn't as good right now as we think he is. I think it's pretty safe to say he's not in his prime anymore.
Right. Yeah, he's only at back end of the prime, if anything.
Who's to say that Russell Wilson, this is it? Russell Wilson's a guy who's going to throw 23 touchdowns a year now.
I don't know. I think the thing with Seattle, they changed offensive coordinators. They changed systems, especially when Geno got there. I don't know. I just think Sean Payton is going to bring a different, obviously a different vibe. They have a real leader in that locker room now. Offensively, he's a he's borderline Hall of Fame coach.
By the way, receivers, awful.
Well, that's the problem.
Judy just got hurt.
They're dropping like flies, and they have no depth there.
Yep.
So that's what scares me, and that's what's kind of taking me off them a little bit, because I was really high on them early in the offseason. I was like, I'm going to bet them to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
But I'm not as high on them anymore. They improved the offensive line, which is a big thing, obviously. Defense is really good. Their defense won me a lot of money last year. I bet on that defense. I bet on that team a lot, and their defense covered a lot of spreads.
The best bet of all time with the Broncos last year.
And
it was hitting by 10 points every game.
They covered big spreads.
Yeah.
They covered a lot of games last year. They were my most bet team last year, Denver. Yeah. Crazy. But I won.
Love you some Broncos.
All right. Let's shift over here to the NFC West. As we'll start with the 49ers here. I mean, we kind of talked about the 49ers a little bit. Yeah. We've talked about them a lot lately. Legit roster. Obviously, the quarterback situation, not issues. But Purdy's going to be the guy, and we'll see how far that takes him. I think Darnold, I want to see Darnold get some run. I really want to see Darnold in this, because I think he can really succeed just as much, maybe more than Purdy did.
Yeah. This team's going to win football games. We know that. We know no matter who the quarterback is, we know that this roster, this defense is capable of carrying the team. And this coaching staff and the offensive scheme and the running game is just fantastic. So while I am standing by the statement that I made a couple weeks ago talking about the 49ers and Brock Purdy's not going to get them to the Super Bowl, just like I said last year, I still stand by that. But in terms of winning this division, I like Seattle, but this is obviously their division to lose.
They're an interesting bet, Seattle. You're betting on Geno Smith having another really good season. They got the weapons, that's for sure. They got the weapons. Yep. They got a good defense. Devon Witherspoon from Illinois is the corner, the 5th overall pick. They should have taken Carter, whatever. Yeah. Of course, he's got to end up in Philadelphia. But they should have taken Carter. The defense is legit. Tariq Woolen coming back year 2. You want to take any account into Jamal Adams coming back. I don't really think it's a big deal, but he's back. That's today. That's news today.
Right.
But they'll be solid. They're going to make the playoffs again, in my opinion. And that's really all I got to say.
I think so too. I mean, I like the Seahawks. I mean, I think that this defense is going to get better too. You have guys. You mentioned Woolen. You mentioned these other young guys. Witherspoon. The secondary could be very good.
I love Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah. Receiving core is great.
Elite.
I mean, Tyler Lockett's one of the most consistent guys in the NFL too, and I think DK, all my fantasy football players out there, I'd be liking me some DK Metcalf this year, and I think even Geno, maybe he doesn't give you 30 touchdowns this year. I think he's a great quarterback. I think this is legit. I think Geno's like a top 12 quarterback in the league now, but even if he gives you 26, 25 touchdowns,
doesn't turn the ball over that much,
right? Yeah. I think this could be a very good team. And they'll
run the ball like Kenneth Walker a lot.
Yeah.
They'll run
Zach
the ball.
Charbonnet, they got a second-round running back. Yep. They got 2 running backs now.
Rams.
Yeah, now we're gonna start stooping lower. The Rams. They made their bed. And if I'm a Rams fan, I'm like, yeah, this is what happened, but I'm still taking my Super Bowl. We always ask the age-old question: would you take 10 years of misery for one Super Bowl? And by the way, yes.
And they're not
every time.
And they're not going to have 10 years of misery, especially with McVay, as long as he stays here.
No, but they're going to have a couple years of misery.
Yes.
I mean,
this year might not be
Stafford,
misery.
I think this team's ceiling to me is 8 wins. I really can't see them being a playoff team. I mean, maybe in a weak NFC, they sneak in with an 8-9 win season at the most. they're not winning 10 games.
No.
Anything more than that.
The defense
That's
is
not happening.
The defense is brutal.
Yeah.
The defense is
the
bad.
offensive line is awful.
Awful. I mean, what Cup's back.
Cup's back, but outside of Cup, who are your receivers?
It's a
Van
bad
Jefferson.
team. It's a bad team.
It's not a good team.
Yeah, and they're not being talked about either, which is crazy.
And now they got my boy Mike LaFleur though. Yes. Yeah, thank God.
So
for
he
my
might
boy.
change things.
Right.
Maybe McVay's like grooming him to be the next head coach of the Rams. That could be possible.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
If it makes the Rams feel better, they probably look back and say, "Oh, well, there's the Cardinals."
Yeah.
That's that. Okay.
At least we're not that, and we got the Super Bowl.
I don't think 0-17.
No.
Not that bad. 3 wins.
2 and 3 wins.
First overall pick.
And second.
Do you do it?
Of course.
What are you gonna do with Kyler?
You figure it out. Doesn't matter. You take Caleb Williams.
Really? You wouldn't do like a Bears thing and like trade it?
The Bears are going to regret what they did.
But the Bears, like Bryce Young, don't get me wrong, I think Bryce Young is going to have a good career. Bryce Young is nowhere near what Caleb Williams is as a prospect
he's not.
coming out.
No.
But Caleb Williams is
one of the most
the
highest.
first overall pick. Every scout, shut your computers. We're not worrying about the first round this year.
Right.
We know who we're taking.
And we even know who the second best player in the draft is.
Right.
And if they have both picks, that's
Who, Harrison?
Harrison.
Yeah.
If they have both picks, that's something you could set up for a very long time.
Yep.
But, I mean, I really dislike the coach. I don't like Gannon. They are just – do you remember the report that came out, like, toward the end of the season last year, like, just how the overall treatment from the franchise to the players is? And, like, just they have, like, the worst facilities.
Yep.
They make their players pay for –
awful jerseys, by the way.
Awful
Had
jerseys.
a great chance to remodel their jerseys, and they actually might have gotten worse.
They got worse.
Yeah.
They are just a dumpster fire franchise. I don't know how anybody wants to work for them.
Yeah, I don't know. My favorite part about it, I think my biggest complaint about the Cardinals jerseys was that helmet. It's just a white helmet with the Cardinal logo on the side. It's the same exact helmet. They didn't change the helmet.
The jersey's worse.
They just changed the jersey.
The jersey can't get worse. But
all these teams got to stop with these stupid like gradients and stuff on the jerseys.
I don't like your jersey.
The Jets?
Yeah, I don't
the throwback I like.
Oh, throwback I love.
Yeah, I don't like our jerseys either.
I don't like
I don't like the greens. The whites are cool. I actually like the whites, and the black looks pretty good in certain settings. I can't stand the greens actually. I really don't like.
Just came around on me too. Not a fan.
Yeah.
Not a fan. I was, and now I'm not. I guess I evolved.
Listen, we can
style
go out there and wear purple as long as we're in a Super Bowl contention.
Purple's nice.
Do whatever you want.
Purple's nice.
Yeah.
All right. We've been talking for a while. This was a lot of fun. This is the new norm.
This is it, man.
Mics in our hands.
I feel so cool with this mic
I know.
in my hand.
I know. Really.
I feel like
does
I have
feel
something
cool.
really important to say, but I don't.
I got every. I know. No,
Talking
we
about
do. We
sports.
do. We have very important things to say, but this was a lot of fun. Episode 104 in the books. Next week, prediction show.
Yes,
a week
sir.
before the season starts. Very excited. We're going to go through the divisions. We're going to give you your Super Bowl MVPs, everything. Maybe a little best bet, future bet. Maybe
Love it.
we'll say.
I love all that.
But it's going to be a lot.
And our
those are
pick segment is
shows.
coming up. We're going to see me kick Merle's ass again.
We're gonna come up with a bet too, like a little punishment.
Yes, for sure.
Like a dance maybe on TikTok
Right.
or something. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
Oh God.
We'll see. Because I'm gonna win this year. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.